Welcome to She Fascinates Me, a hand-picked collection of heartfelt, human conversations with women who've lived boldly, grown wiser, and have stories worth sharing. In a world flooded with AI content and perfectly polished personas, we're all craving something real, and you can't fake this. From big reinventions and quiet pivots to wisdom on wellness, leadership, and turning a passion into a business, each episode is honest, inspiring, and full of connection. If you caught our first conversation with my dear friend Amy Budow, you know we covered the nuts and bolts of her epic 22-month solo journey around the world, the guts it took to commit to making the dream a reality, saving, packing, logistics, and all the moving parts it took to even get out the door. But of course, we weren't going to leave you hanging without diving into what the trip itself actually felt like. Today, we go deeper into the experience once she was on the road, the ups and downs, the quiet moments, the surprises, and the emotional stamina it took to keep going. We didn't focus on guidebook facts or a country-by-country recap. You guys can Google all of that. Instead, this is a real conversation about what it feels like to drop into unfamiliar places alone, to wrestle with fatigue and loneliness, and to discover reserves of strength you didn't know you had. And of course, Amy's biggest takeaway after circling the globe. So, let's pick up where we left off and step inside Amy's head and heart as she takes us through the true meaning of her journey. Hi there, welcome to She Fascinates Me. This is episode 2 with my friend Amy Budow, who traveled around the world solo for 22 months. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Julie. It's so fun to be here.
I love it. Okay. So, episode 1 was all about how do you make a trip like this happen? All the preparation, all the planning, all the saving. And I thought it would be cool just to spend some time talking today, kind of on your terms about how did this trip go? What did it feel like? Not necessarily like the details about where did you go and how long did you stay and what did you eat, but just your takeaways from the trip. I know for you, it was so much about the people you met along the way. So, do you want to just kind of open it up and see where this conversation goes?
Yeah, sure. And honestly,
Yeah.
I think the best place to start is right at the very beginning.
Okay.
The way that my trip started was unexpected.
Uh-huh.
And definitely, I think kind of gets to what you're getting at here with your question. I started my trip flying out of LA. It was a
Mm-hmm.
2-day flight to get to Perth. So it was LA to Tokyo to Singapore to Perth. And I was standing in line at LAX and I'm waiting to check in for my flight and I've got my backpack on. So here I am, this is happening. It,
Yes.
it was very surreal. I was getting used to the weight of my backpack. I had a crossbody day bag and I already hated it.
Okay.
I realized as I was waiting in line to check in for my flight, I had some phone calls that I still needed to make that I had forgotten about. So, all these things are happening. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a young guy waiting in line to check in with a backpack on his back. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
he looks just like
Cute.
me. Adorable to boot. So I check in for my flight and I was going to the gate and backpacker guy is standing at the top of the escalator. So we get to talking and I find out he's on my flight all the way to Singapore. And then he
Ooh,
was
okay.
going on to where he was from in New Zealand. I was going on to Australia. But the kicker is he was just finishing up an 18-month bike riding trip around the world solo.
What are the chances?
And I was just getting started. At the time when I started, I thought I was going to go 18 months.
Yeah.
And I just, again, like this surreal feeling, like, how is this happening? Is this real? Is this a figment of my imagination? Is this guy really real? And that's how the trip started, was right out of the gate. I mean, literally right out of the gate, meeting another backpacker who was just finishing up an 18-month trip around the world as I was just
Magical
about to start mine.
coincidence.
Yeah.
So, did you guys get to sit near each other on the plane?
We did end up switching seats. And so we did end up sitting next to each other on the plane. And it was just 2 days
Yeah.
of non-stop. I was just trying to get as much information as I could,
I
just
bet.
learning as much as I could from his experience. Now, granted, he did a bike riding trip. So,
Uh-huh.
a little bit different, but really not that much different. There was plenty of similarities. There was a lot to learn from him. And it was how it started.
Yeah. What a great way to kick off this trip. I mean, I'm sure it was totally unexpected too. Were there any sparks?
Well, there might have been some sparks. And the fun part was because I had no itinerary, the plan going in was that I would start my trip in Perth.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't planning to travel further in Australia. It was big, it's expensive. I was going to
Yeah.
go right into Southeast Asia. But I decided to switch gears. I ended up traveling a little bit more in Australia, and sure enough, made my way to New Zealand and got to visit backpacker friend.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. So, I guess when you meet someone on a trip, even if there are sparse, you had a whole 18 months trip that you had planned on having. So I guess you had to say, see you later and move on.
One of the common threads that goes along with meeting the people is having to say the goodbyes. And so that
Yeah.
was definitely a part of it as well. And it was a difficult
Okay.
part. It was challenging.
I
You know,
bet.
not only, were you leaving somebody that you had just met and potentially really liked to whatever degree, but then it also meant, that I was back at it by myself again,
Okay.
so it was a combination of the meeting people, but also the difficulty of having to say goodbye.
Yeah, I guess like the intensity, right? Because I think when you already have that common thread that you mentioned, the foundation, you can really just get to the heart of getting to know someone on a more intense level, I suppose. And that's got to just be so vibrant and exciting and fun. But so it makes sense that a goodbye would be hard. Just these are bigger feelings.
And I think it's a great way to put it too. There was an intensity of it,
Yeah.
at base. We all had something in common. Other travelers that
Mhm.
I was meeting along the way, we all had something in common.
Yeah.
Not everybody was necessarily on as long of a trip as I was on. Everybody was, going about their own experience in their own way for whatever time frame. But if nothing else, we were in the same place at the same time in the world.
Yeah.
We were in some random spot in the world at exactly the same moment in time. And to have that kind of commonality, not to mention just being on this grand adventure, or
Uh-huh.
especially if it was another solo traveler, there was just instant connection. And so,
Totally.
yes, I think it lent itself to an intensity of relationships. The relationships were on a very accelerated timeline. You
Yeah.
might just have a couple of hours to be with someone you
Gosh.
just met. You might have
Yeah.
a couple of days, or whatever it is. It
And you
it
just
it
don't
did
know.
have right, and
Yeah.
it did create its own intensity with the relationships for sure.
Yeah. Okay. You've just got to be game for that kind of adventure. And obviously you were. So I'm sure there were all kinds of different people you met, right? Probably some really eccentric people. I'm assuming different ages. Obviously people are from all over the world. Can you kind of paint a picture for what that crowd of people who are your fellow travelers might have been like, what the mix was?
It was one of the most diverse mixes of people I could have possibly imagined.
Uh-huh.
It was really every corner of the globe. I met people from every continent.
Mm-hmm.
There were solo women travelers, solo men travelers. There was pairs traveling together. There were couples traveling together. There were couples who started their trip together but didn't end their trips together, or
Uh-oh.
vice versa. People who maybe started out alone and ended up finding somebody who
Yeah.
they hit it off with and ended up traveling with. There were
Gosh.
groups there. I mean, it really ran the gamut. Also for different periods of time as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone knows this, but a lot of Europeans take a month off in the summer, a
Yeah.
month off of work
Yeah.
every
It sounds
summer,
glorious. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
So
so
you
I
met a
met
lot of
a
Europeans?
Yes, met a lot of
Yeah.
Europeans. I met a lot of, solo travelers who were just taking a 1 month vacation.
Okay.
And a 1 month is an extraordinary amount of time to spend in one
Yeah.
place or spend traveling around.
So if there were groups or couples, was it easier for you to kind of assimilate and hang out with them and spend time with them? Or did it feel more natural just to be with other solo travelers? How did that work for you?
I would say it was both.
Okay.
There were, I think the easiest thing was you could just clock the travelers literally by how they looked. We all had backpacks on our backs. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
It's like
could spot
neon
the
sign,
traveler.
backpacker.
Yep. And I think because we all were having, a shared experience in that moment, it made it really easy, really, no matter what the makeup was. If
Yeah.
I was just
Okay.
by myself and I saw two backpackers, I didn't really have any problem saying hello. Where are you heading?
Yeah.
Again, there was like a series of questions that backpackers would go through when we would meet each other. pretty much the first question was always going to be, hey, where are you from?
Okay.
Then it's going to be, where are you heading? Or where did you just come from? Or, where are you heading next? How long are you traveling for? Those were
Makes
like the
sense.
top
Yeah.
four questions. Notice that names didn't come into
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. Funny,
Um,
right? Those are the identifiers. Yeah.
right.
Versus the name. That doesn't really mean anything. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Oftentimes we would get to the names last. We would get to names later. As somebody who is very forgetful of names, I found that it was a lot easier to remember a name if we got to those at the end of the dinner or the end of the day. So I
Sure.
had
Yeah.
something to kind of attach it to.
That makes a lot of
Um,
sense. Yeah.
but it was really easy to be able to just spark up a conversation. And look, not everybody likes each other. Just because you are
Okay.
having this shared experience, or you're both kind of backpacking, doesn't mean everybody's you mean you're going to love or like.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of just being able to say hello, start that conversation, was far easier than I could have ever imagined.
Well, and I guess, when you're meeting so many people in so many places, you can kind of get little things that you might need along the way, whether it's just a hello, a little brief companionship, or even help. I'm assuming like you're probably getting this real in the moment crowdsourcing from all these fellow travelers. That must have been cool.
That was exactly it. And I think that was part of the reason that conversation was so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what those like top four questions were: where are you from? Where did you just come from? And where are you going?
Yeah.
Because, we were all kind of on a little bit of the same like backpacker trail. There was a lot of commonality in cities and countries that we were going to. And so the best source of information were my fellow travelers.
Yeah.
I had a computer with me. I did have the internet and I was able to, research that way. But my best information from a logistics standpoint all along the way came from my other travelers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, even if I met somebody, they didn't all become my best friends. Sometimes it
Sure.
was just to have a knowledge transfer. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
where did you stay? Did you like it? What did you think? What do I
Mm-hmm.
need to know?
Yeah. It didn't, you weren't like expecting to have all these connections everywhere, but certainly when you did, I'm sure it was very rewarding and exciting and fun, and just added like a different dimension to wherever you were. So I mean, yeah, that's so many things going on, right? That's so much input, the people, and starting conversations and explaining where you're from, and then being in a new environment. Did you ever feel overwhelmed, or was it just this constantly rich experience day to day? How did that feel for you? Was it good, or sometimes too much?
For the most part, it was always good. I mean,
Yeah,
at base, it was, it always bent towards, this is amazing.
yeah,
But yes, there were definitely some times where it wasn't so great, for a variety of different reasons. I remember there was one time I just didn't know where to go next. I mean, that was it. I
okay,
just didn't know where to go next. I just kind of felt like I just felt
yeah,
stuck.
yeah, yeah.
And the answer to that for me was, I just extended my stay for a couple of days
Okay,
and
took some
didn't
time.
I just took some time. If
Yeah,
I didn't know where to go, maybe the answer was, don't go anywhere. Maybe just stay where
mhm.
you are. And so that became a little bit of kind of a travel lesson for me, to pay attention to how I was feeling.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't always have to be on the go.
Even though you kind of
And
had been, yeah. But okay,
exactly. And
yeah.
it was always a trip in motion. I mean, really, to some extent, I was always in motion, going from one
Hmm.
place to the next. But there were some times when I just needed to stop. And so that was part of learning, how
Yeah.
to travel in this way, was paying attention to that and being okay with that.
Yeah, giving yourself permission. Um, yeah, I think that must have been a huge realization for you. And boy, did that
Right.
just free you up at that moment? Was that kind of a turning point when you figured that out?
I didn't necessarily know at the time that it was a turning point. But looking back on it, there was definitely a lesson for me to learn there, because I
Yeah.
realized, you are on an extended trip. You have no obligations here. Just relax. I think
Mm-hmm.
coming from a corporate environment and in our culture,
Yeah.
we're maybe not so good at that all the time. So it was
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lesson in the, relax into your trip. Just relax into this experience. Stop what you're doing. Take a
Yeah.
moment. And sure enough, I got on Facebook the next day and I saw that a woman that I had met a month ago in India, boom, just checked into Istanbul. I
Oh,
had gotten
okay.
stuck at that time in the south of Turkey. And so I reached out to her and she was thrilled. She had just arrived. She wanted to get out of the city quickly because she planned to come back to it to meet some friends. And she didn't know where to go either.
Okay,
And
perfect.
so we messaged back and forth. We made a plan, and the next day we both met up in another city in
Okay,
Turkey, and it was great. It was exactly what I needed.
perfect. So problem solved. And I think you've told me now when you travel, like when you're taking shorter trips, just from that experience, you mentioned that you just don't put a whole lot of pressure on yourself when you're traveling, to have everything figured out or planned. I love that for you, that it just kind of changed the way you look at travel.
Yes, and I realized, that's a unique experience for me, and I'm really comfortable with that.
Hmm.
I'm okay showing up to a new city now and not feeling like I need to go to all the places and doing all the things and ticking all the boxes. I do want to be really clear, though. There's nothing wrong with that. Tick all
Yeah,
the
sure.
boxes, go to all the places, do all the things to the extent that you want to.
Hmm.
What I realized with this type of travel is it's okay to do both. It's
Yeah,
okay to be in a place and not do all the things, or it's okay if you don't go to the museum. It's okay. If you really
sure.
don't feel it, if you really don't want to, if all you want to do is just sit at a cafe all day and watch the people walk by,
That's one
that's
of
a
my
great way to
favorite things
spend a
to
day.
do. I love that.
Mhm.
I'd do that all day over a museum.
and
So,
I love that. I think that's just, especially, if you don't have a lot of opportunity to travel, there might feel like there's pressure to go to the museum. You got to do it.
right.
Don't. If that's not what you want to do, don't do it. Don't go.
Yeah.
There's
I
always
think,
something else to do, and walking a city, just roaming, is a great way to spend a day in a foreign place.
ooh, that's great advice. Just roaming. The people part of the
Right.
trip is just feeling so good to you.
What comes to mind for me the most is the connectedness of the people
Uh-huh.
that I met, the way that I would see somebody in one place and then I'd see them again in another place, or little by little
Mhm.
I would start having some familiarity with, wait, I just saw them in another city that I was in. And as I got deeper into the trip, it happened more and more and more.
Amazing.
It was just this wild interconnectedness of how our paths would cross and recross on
Yeah.
different continents even. So big picture, across the entirety of the trip, that was just the most wild part of it, and the most
Yeah.
unexpected part.
Well, and I'm
I
sure
knew I
like
would be meeting people.
celebratory whenever you would see these people again. Gosh.
Yes, right, to
Yeah.
be in a completely foreign place and see a familiar face.
Yeah.
Yes. So those, I mean, I feel like I've got a million of those stories. Like, for example, I was in Vietnam. I had been traveling up. It's a really long country, and I'd been traveling up, making my way south to north. I had been traveling with people pretty much the whole time. I was on my way to Ho Chi Minh, and I just wanted to be alone. Like, I just realized,
Okay.
like, all right, tired. I just want to have like a few days, just to myself. I was staying in a hostel in a small 4-person room. I opened the
Okay.
door and there's two young women sitting in there, and they looked up at me like, "Hey, where are you from?" And there go my plans of having any alone time. They were absolutely phenomenal. We hit it off immediately. We spent the whole time in the city together. They were from England. And
Okay.
fast forward, like, I don't know, maybe 3 or so months from then, we both ended up in the same city in India at the same time.
That's
And
crazy.
so I knew they were in where the city that I was heading to. I knew that they were there. So they booked a room for me. I was traveling with another girl that I had met in
Mhm.
Thailand. She was traveling by herself. She also didn't want to go to India by herself. So she and I went together. We ended up staying at the same hotel as the girls that I had met in Vietnam. We were planning to meet on the rooftop. And as I got up there, there was another couple there, and they had also been friends with the girls I met in
Mhm.
Vietnam, and we were all at the same hotel together.
Yeah.
And so the six of us all palled around India together, which was great.
Yeah.
Fast forward about 6 months, I'm in Central America, and the Australian couple that I had met on the rooftop through the girls that I met in Vietnam are in Central America with me in the same place at the same time in Guatemala. I mean, that's just how it went,
Yeah.
just realizing that other people doing long term travel, like at some point your paths are going to cross again.
Well,
And
yeah. And
I
then if
just,
you want to be alone, it sounds like it's kind of hard to be alone. And so, if anyone is hesitant to travel solo because they're worried about feeling isolated, I think you're proving you probably don't need to worry about that as long as you're like open to it. And maybe, I mean, if you're craving some alone time, I'm sure you can hide away if you have to. But sounds to me like this is not a lonely situation for anyone to be worried about.
that's exactly right. And, because I was doing it kind of backpacker style and living a hostel life, that just made the meeting people part so easy. I mean, you're
Yeah,
literally
it's
just
automatic.
walking into, just a place full of people doing exactly what you're doing. But sure, if you want some alone time or you just want to decompress, grab a hotel room for a couple of nights.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's where you're really going to be able to get some solitude and some peace and
Sure.
some quiet.
There's so much magic that's happening on the trip. It just sounds incredible. All of the connection, the communal feeling, even though it's a constantly changing group of people everywhere you go. So I'm sure
Right.
there's like a sense of like safety and community when you're in that kind of a group. But certainly traveling alone, I'm sure you had to be very aware of your surroundings and all of that. And you're a smart woman, and I'm sure you have the basics for how to take care of yourself. But did you ever have some fear or scary moments that happened while you were on the trip?
Yeah, I would say generally speaking, I had to do this trip without fear. I had to. I don't
Okay.
think um that this type of an experience is compatible with fear. I just don't think the two
Okay.
would have worked.
Well
So I
put.
felt really confident about what I was doing, and I felt comfortable. And yes, a lot of that is because of who I was meeting along the way and realizing, like, yeah, there's a lot of people doing this. And that did give me a sense of comfort and safety. Um,
Okay.
but as a solo woman, I was by myself. I
Okay.
was it. It was really important to me that I, made sure that I kept a really strong vibe of I
Yes.
got this, don't screw with me. And
Yeah.
I think that served me. I think that the energy, I stayed very conscious of don't mess with me. It was sort of like my little force field, around me.
Yeah.
And I do think that served me. A lot of kind of bad things, if you will, that might happen to people when they travel. Maybe it's a crime of opportunity. People get pickpocketed,
Mm-hmm.
small little things like that. That did not happen to me. And
Okay.
I do think that it was because I led with just a constant awareness.
Yeah.
I was very aware. I am a petite woman. I was by myself. I was just out in the world. That was very top of mind for me, that my
Sure.
safety was first and foremost. So there was definitely comfort, with meeting other
Well,
people that were doing this.
and you mentioned that you had to lead with that and that kind of, don't mess with me
Yeah,
vibe. But certainly you balanced it well because otherwise, how are you going to make friends with people along the way? I'm sure you had like the perfect
right.
mix of that
Yes.
confidence. And that there's probably a little bit of an art to figuring out how to be both. Is that something
I
you
think
kind
that's
of went
exactly
into the
right.
trip already knowing how to do, or did you figure it out while you were on the trip, how to balance it?
That was a figure it out on the trip.
Yeah.
You really nailed it. It was about the balance because you're
Yeah.
exactly right. Like that kind of energy is all fine and good until you realize, you're maybe rebuffing, you know, people that are really just trying to be helpful. And so I think
Right. Right.
finding that balance is really important. Going with your gut is huge. That
Yeah.
is huge. And I think that's just sort of a life lesson, is
Sure.
trying to figure out how we manage what's coming at us. And when you get that little uh-oh feeling or that little feeling of this doesn't feel right, you have to go with that. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
go with that. That's, I think, really the most important thing. And especially when you're, out traveling in the world by yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I found to be really helpful for me to try to find that balance was
Hmm.
don't always assume everything is a bad situation, but pay attention when something doesn't feel
Sure.
right.
So proving to yourself that you can problem solve and you can push through fears or feeling intimidated at a certain point of the trip or feeling stuck. These are all just great things to just enrich who you are as a person. So, when you finish this trip, what's the biggest impression that you have walking away from completing a 22-month trip around the world, making all these fantastic connections with the people along the way?
Yeah, I think the people connection, Jules, I mean, it was such a huge part of the experience. And I think the takeaway that this is a planet full of amazing, incredible, diverse people. And at
Hmm.
the end of the day, we are so much more alike than we are different. And it,
Yeah.
it, it doesn't matter where you're from, how you grew up, where you're going, what you're interested in, what you like. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all just seeking out a life experience in whatever way feels right for us. If you want to have a family and go that route, or see the world, or do both, whatever it is, I really was struck by
Yeah.
the similarities just across the board, across the globe.
Yeah. I'm hearing you say all of this, and we've gotten to have such wonderful conversations about this trip. It's been such a treat to just hear all the details and your perspective. And it really does give me chills. I feel it. It's a beautiful observation that you made. We are all human, and the connections that you made. I would just love to meet some of these people that you fell in love with on your trip.
Take a step back. There's a lot of craziness in the world. Constantly, there's just constant chaos somewhere in the world. There's chaos happening right now, and it's easy to get caught up in that. And I
Yeah.
think now more than ever, just if everyone could just take a step back and just realize we are all human beings sharing a planet. We are all having a human experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it could really help.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think you're
it
right.
could go a long way.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this element, this dimension of the trip. And where are you going to go next?
Right. Next, I'm working on a trip to Europe.
Okay.
There's a little country between Spain and France called Andorra.
Really?
Yeah, tiny little
I've never
country.
heard of it. How tiny
It's
is
a
it? Oh my
tiny little
gosh.
country. It's known for shopping. It's right in the mountains in the Pyrenees, so it's
Okay.
also known as a skiing destination, snow ski destination.
Oh,
Uh, but I'd like to hit it, scratch it off my map, check it out,
okay.
and I'll get dip into Spain and dip into France on either side
That
of it.
sounds
So
great. I can't wait to hear
that's what's
about
coming
that.
next.
Sounds like a little mini trip. Okay. Well, safe travels, fun travels,
Thank you.
and thank you for inspiring, I think, our listeners to really travel, get into it, and just be open like you were. And it'll all just come together.
I think that's right. This is my favorite thing to
Yeah.
talk about. So I'm always
Yeah.
happy to share my stories. This has
Yeah.
been really fun for me as well, Jules. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. You know what? It just occurred to me it might be fun if there are people who have comments or questions for you. We could accumulate them. And then if you want to come back, we could literally just read people's questions and you could answer them off the cuff. That could be fun.
I would love that. I'm actually really curious to hear what questions people might have.
Okay.
I don't know what people might be curious about, so I think that's great. I would love to do that.
You know what we should do? Why don't you make a list of all the countries that you visited? And we'll post that information in the bio, I guess is what I'm supposed to say, being a new podcaster. Is that what I'm going to do?
Love
I'm going to
it.
put that in the bio
Put it in the
and
bio.
people can find the list. And that way, if anyone wants to go to these countries, maybe they can ask you some questions and we can just have it structured that way.
Great.
Okay.
I will give my entire travel route in the order that I did it.
I love it. Okay. That'll be fun. Okay. Well, then we'll see you again.
Thanks, Jules.
Bye. If you're watching today, keep going because we've added some beautiful personal photos from Amy's trip, and they're truly worth seeing. And if you just listened instead of watching, go ahead and head to the episode notes and click on the link so that you can see the images that she so generously shared. In episode 1, with her eyes lit up and the biggest smile, Amy told us her adventure was 100% fun. And yes, it was. But as we've learned here, it was also a mixed bag. The pep talks she had to give herself, the permission she granted herself to slow down, and the bold move of letting go of that pressure to do everything all at once. Spoiler alert, she still managed to do all the things. And oh my gosh, she may be petite, but she can do some very big things. What struck me most is that beyond all those stamps on her passport, what really mattered were the people. The kindness of strangers, the friendships forged, the moments of connection that made the world feel both vast and intimate. Amy may have traveled on a budget, but she came home absolutely rich, with a suitcase full of relationships and stories that are going to last a lifetime. What an amazing woman. If you'd like to see some snapshots from her journey, with Amy's cute captions to match, check the link in the bio, and definitely connect with her on Instagram at Cheeky Universe. Travel is her favorite conversation, so don't be shy. Drop her a message, share your dream destination, and let's keep this spirit of curiosity and connection going. I'm glad you're still here, and the fact that you are, watching or listening all the way to the end means you gave me a chance. This is a new podcast, and it was a big leap to create this for you, something real, thoughtful, and meaningful. We live in one of the most networked societies in history, but somehow we've become the least connected. That's the magic of She Fascinates Me, bringing together real women, real stories, and the quiet alchemy of change. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you watch or listen, and take a moment to leave a quick rating or review. It really helps more people find the show, and it makes it possible for me to keep bringing you conversations like this one. And connect with me on social at She Fascinates Me. Every follow, share, and kind word helps this community of fascinating women grow. I'm so glad we're connected now.